Well, good evening, everyone. Maclovio Perez, 25 News Now, with several updates on Tropical Storm Beryl. Beryl is finally moving, and some of the outer bands are moving ashore with fairly heavy rain. Right about now, it's right along the immediate coastline. We'll zoom in here to show you what we're doing. You can see how the heavy rain is now moving onto the land right there, and that is going to be spreading around into Victoria County within the hour or two. There's the center of the storm. It continues moving northbound. Number one, they have lowered the hurricane warning. In other words, they don't expect it to become a hurricane. It's probably going to stay there at 70 miles an hour. Number two, they've put out a tornado alert. In other words, now that the storm is moving ashore, when it starts, a landfalling hurricane usually has tornadoes around the periphery of it. So that is a concern that we're going to have through the night. So, you know, not only heavy rain, possible tornadoes out of this, and of course the winds are going to be picking up. Right now we have Zach Brown, who's live in Port Lavaca. He can give us a live report as to what's going on down there with the thunderstorms. Zach?
Thanks, Mac. And while you tell everybody not to be in it, I'm in it so they know why they shouldn't be in it. We're here at the Bayfront Peninsula here in Port Lavaca. Now, it seems like the worst of it, at least for the moment, has passed us up. Now, who knows what can happen later, but this is nothing compared to what it was at 10 p.m. when there was a lot of high winds and a ton of rain. The wind was blowing so hard, the rain was going sideways. You see this palm tree behind me? Not blowing a ton, but the wind here is pretty moderate. But I will say this, the only cars that I really see on the road behind me are really police cars. This isn't weather that you want to be driving around. Like Mac Perez said, it doesn't necessarily apply to this specific area, but just the surrounding areas all around our crossroads region. Down power lines and down trees are typically the minimal expectation for damage, and those can do a whole lot of damage. You don't want to be driving in this. It can be hard to see at times. Here at the Bayfront Peninsula, we can even see a lot of the waves crashing against the rocks. I guess that's natural whenever you talk about a lot of high wind. Right now it's okay. I don't know if you guys can hear the rain kind of picks up, then it kind of dies down. It's been steady for the last hour and a half or so with no signs of letting up just yet. It's not brutal out here yet, but it certainly isn't safe to be outside at the moment, at least right here in Port Lavaca. And I'm sure a lot of our surrounding counties can say the exact same thing. Everybody hunker down, stay safe. Reporting live in Port Lavaca, Zach Brown, KVU TV 25 News Now.
Zach, and like he said, it's not a good night to be out. In fact, it's only going to be getting worse as we go into the next 2 or 3 hours. The landfall of the eye should be somewhere around 2 in the morning. But then again, the storm itself is 100 miles wide, so the eye is just for recording purposes. What Zach experienced at 10 o'clock was one of the outer bands coming through. You can see how they're spinning around the storm. Well, these are where we get the maximum stormy weather in these bands. And so we're going to get one band and then another one behind it and then another one behind that. That's why you'll have periods or waves of heavy thunderstorms and then gusty winds behind it. Now, the storm center is going to come ashore somewhere close to Matagorda Bay, but we here in Victoria City are on the west side of this system, and so you're going to get a classic lesson on the function of the vortex around the storm. This, the right side, is the strong side of the storm. This is where we'll get the maximum lifting onto the land. We'll get these bands of big thunderstorms, and we'll get probably the strongest winds. On the back side of the storm, we've got what's called a downslope wind, and so it's a little bit drier, and it's not as, shall we say, productive in terms of rainfall as it's going to be on the east side. So we're going to have a rather unusual situation where the east side is going to get very heavy rain, the west side not so much. Here's an example of what we're talking about. It's pretty impressive that between Port Lavaca and Galveston, they're looking at 7 to 10 inches of rain, while from Victoria to the west, we're looking for 1 to 2 inches. That's what the computer model is telling us, and the center of it is right about here, so you can see how the left side, right side of the storm are completely different. Now here's another map. This is the yellow. This is tropical storm force winds. So from 39 to 45 miles an hour right here. And this is hurricane force winds above 75 miles an hour. So you can see how it moves ashore. It's real close to hurricane force, but then it moves on land and it begins to decrease. As I mentioned, this hurricane warning was lowered just a few minutes ago. Actually, you can see it right here. This is now a tropical storm advisory rather than a hurricane warning that had extended out there. So we've got the storm conditions now. Bands of thunder showers will be rolling through the center of it, coming right up here. So what I'm trying to tell you, most importantly, is if you live east of Victoria, and I'm talking Palacios, Weedhaven, and moving on up to Edna and on to Wharton, you're going to have the strongest winds in the next 6 hours. And then by the time we get to noontime tomorrow, it will start pulling away. But as I mentioned a moment ago, just a few moments ago at exactly 10 p.m., they put up the tornado watch so that it will exist for all of the counties east of Victoria. Where is Victoria? Right here. So because of the path coming this way, all of the real heavy stuff is going to be on that side. So for those of you, Matagorda County, and then on up into Brazoria and on up into Fort Bend, you're going to be looking at the strongest of the activity. Now, here's the way the circulation is going around the storm system, that being the center. It continues moving northbound with the heavy rain going with it, and now you see how the eastern side is getting the strong upslope wind and we're getting the downslope wind here. And so by tomorrow, even in the afternoon, we might see a let up in the wind and the intensity of the thunderstorms. But in between now and then, we've got coastal flooding, we've got high tides, very strong rip currents. Obviously, nobody needs to be out in the water right about now. Everybody just needs to hunker down and stay home. Now, this is a very interesting, this is rainfall in the last 24 hours, and you can see we've had a little bit heavier stuff down in Matagorda, not so much for us. Now, here in Victoria, we've had probably maybe less than an inch. A little bit heavier down in Calhoun and along the coastal areas, but again, that's where all the big stuff's going to be. So for tomorrow, we're looking for thunder showers pretty much all morning long, not giving us a break until the afternoon hours. For those of you in Cuero, big thunderstorms early and then a little bit of isolated thunderstorm activity in the afternoon hours. So leave it right here on 25 News Now. We're going to be here with the entire crew staying up all night to watch the storm. If you want to watch the storm with us, we're going to be on the top of the hour, every hour, for about 2-3 minutes or as necessary. The concern is if we get any flooding or any reports of tornado activity, we'll certainly be jumping in and letting you know about it. So join us, stay with us, cup of coffee, watch the tube, and we'll be here sharing the path of Tropical Storm Beryl across the crossroads.